like the interview poem too. You know, the one where I take that sarcastic take on job interviews. That one kind of has a special place too.
Your poems are real intricate, right? So, what was the hardest piece for you to remember out of all the pieces you? Because we all have a poem that's like we have it in our head now, but it kicked our ass learning it.
Yeah. Well, Raising Down was difficult to memorize only because of the length, not because of the complexity. Rhyme scheme helps because it's a poem that has like a lot of rhymes in it, so it's kind of like, okay, even if you kind of forget part of it, like your mind will kind of cycle through like what sounds like this, and the word will drop in your mind. But that one was probably the hardest due to length. But if we're talking about like the hardest due to complexity, probably like the interview poem.
I love that piece.
Yeah, that one was more complex. It didn't follow like a rhyme scheme. A couple of ways that it differed from Raising Down was it didn't have like a rhyme scheme for the most part. I mean, it's kind of couple lines of rhyme. For the most part, like there's no rhyme scheme, so it's kind of like there's no rhymes to help you when you memorizing this. You just gotta memorize it. It's a character piece, so I'm not even speaking like as me. The poem is from my mind, but like the character that's in there is not me. And then when I'm performing it, like there's a different cadence and a different voice that goes along with it. So to like put all those elements together and get like the delivery right, like that was it took a minute. Because like once you get the words down, it's like okay, then you gotta get the voice, you gotta get the cadence and the voice with it. It took weeks to get that down.
How long do it take you to normally write something? What's the longest poem you had to write?
The longest poem?
Yes.
Let's see, what took the longest? Probably Raising Down is probably like the longest poem. Like even the part that I spit like earlier, that was only like half of it.
Oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
How many poems do you currently have locked in your head right now?
Probably about maybe like 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Would you mind sharing your the way you learn your poems?
Repetition. I've tried different things, to try and get it, ironed in my brain, a lot faster. I tried doing like a little recorder thing, but and there's probably a lot of people like I don't like the sound of like my own voice when I hear it back. So when I recorded, one of my poems and like I'm listening to it back, I just did it on my phone and I had like the headset on, listening to it at work in my downtime. It was like driving me crazy. Like I couldn't. It was like I'm not doing this. So I went back to doing it like a stanza at a time.
Most definitely.
Like that's how I memorize. So I was like, okay, if a poem has like 5 stanzas, I'm memorizing stanza 1 first. Then I'm memorizing stanza 1 with stanza 2. Then it's stanza 1, 2, and 3. It's kind of like it expands like as I go. So it's kind of like I'm getting the repetition, but it's like a little bit at a time. So by the time like I have like the whole poem down, it's ironed in like pretty well because like I've had enough time to go over like the cadence at the same time while I'm trying to like memorize the stanzas. But like I'll never try to like memorize like a whole poem like all at once, like where I read it like from start to finish, and then start to finish, and then start to finish. Like I'll never memorize it that way. It'll never work.
When the first time you saw somebody on stage and it just blowing your mind as far as they was featuring, and you saw him, you was like, whoa.
Natural was the first time that I saw a poet, and she was part of like the New Mutants, like back in Toledo, and like I remember like the first time that I heard it, like I still got like her chapbook now, like that was years ago. And we talking about almost like what about a decade and a half ago. But the first time that I heard her perform, and she's quick, like the way she spits. So it's kind of like if you don't listen intently, you'll miss something. But like the first time I heard her perform, it was kind of like, okay, you gotta get your mind in gear because naturally she spits, and the way she talks about like relationships, she's got like just like this. She equated like one metaphor to like how it is like dealing like with scary movies, and like the way she delivered that just blew my mind. I love that poem that she did, and she's got this one called like the State of Hip Hop, and like that's the one that like really just like because she wrote it from the standpoint if like and she prefaced it by saying like if hip hop was a state, then I would govern it. And she went into like this whole cadence of like, what if hip hop was an actual like place, and how she would govern it. Like I'll let you hear it after we get done with the interview. Man, like that blew my mind. It was one of like the dopest poems and metaphors and deliveries like I've ever heard.
A lot of times people won't say this, but when was the last time? Have you ever? No, I'll say this a different way. Have you ever been on stage and had to go up to somebody you're like, man, I don't want to go up after that?
Nope.
That's
nope.
That's dope.
Because the reason why, and this is not because like I think I'm like the illest like poet ever, but the reason I'm on stage is different than the reason that they might be on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not on stage to get like a million applause or like whatever. Like I'm on stage to do two things: one, to spit my truth, and two, to see if anybody else can like relate. So like if what I say, if my truth resonates with you, cool. But at the very least, when I go on stage, my truth resonates with me.
Most definitely.
So I don't care what what anybody else goes on stage and does. Like I performed after I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, but Future from Flint, Michigan. Man, this guy. Oh boy. What can I say about Future? Like Future. I've got like all of his albums. I think he's got like three CDs. Like I still listen to him. Like this cat can spit. Like he's incredible. And I remember he hosted one of the Creative Minds movement. Back in Bowling Green, he hosted one of our events. And I bought a CD, listened to it, loved it, and I hadn't seen him like in like years like after that point. Then I moved to Atlanta, and it was always one of my dreams to follow him. Like after he get off stage, then I spit, and the crowd will have the same like kind of like response. Like they'll be feeling me, even though he just went on stage.
Most definitely.
Like I'll be able to like have like the same crowd that he has. So like there was a spot in East Point, Georgia. It's not there anymore, but I remember, and this is like years after I had seen Future. He was on like the headliner like for this event, and I was like, wow. It was like this is about to happen. So like I'm practicing now. It's like at this point like I'm performing. Like I'm the pen is down, the paper is down. Like I'm on stage, and I remember I went to the event. He bodied this feature. I mean that goes without saying. Like I already knew that was coming. And I remember I literally like went maybe I can't remember if it was directly after his feature, or if it was like maybe like two poets like later. But I remember like I did go like after him, and that's when it got like really real. It's like, be careful what you ask for. You might actually get it. Because in the back of my mind I'm going, you said you wanted to perform after Future went on stage.
Yeah.
Here it is.
And here's the thing: it's harder to go by. See, it's easy to go behind a marset and do one poem if they do one poem, but if they do a feature,
yeah, right, right, because that's what this was. This was no longer, this wasn't like okay, this he just had the open mic, he spit like one piece, and I go after him, But I respected him like on that level, to the point of where like if I can go after him and the crowd is still, they still in it, like after they been hit with like like the monstrous blows of poetry like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I could still, you know, like garner like the crowd. You know, I won. You know, and I actually went up there and did it. You know, I can't remember like which poem I did. I had a series of poems, you know, that was called like Rhyme and Reason. I want to say it was like Rhyme and Reason like 3, I think I did. And I went on stage and I bodied it.
Oh, snap.
Even the host came up to me afterwards. She was like, "I've never like heard you like perform before, but yo, that was dope. Like, keep writing because you definitely like got something to say and it needs to be heard." Like that hit me like right here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this was like after Future had been on stage and the crowd was like, you know, I got that good applause. You know what I'm saying? Like that. I was like, yo.
And so, you know what's funny when you said the applause, when you brought down applause, it's a different one too. It's one that a lot of people don't notice, and if you don't notice what it is, it'll weird you out. It's a silence. They're just listening to details of what you're saying.
Oh, you mean like while you're doing the poem?
Yes, that shit can fuck you up if you're up there. Like you ain't hear nothing besides silence.
Right, right, and that's oh my god, you were so right about that. And I actually had to get used to that because a lot of times, like when you're like if you're doing a poem, because you know it's different, like, you know, topics and different things. Like if you're doing a poem where it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's like an easy poem, but like it's not like heavy material. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing like lighter material, you know, the audience is kind of like light with it. They feel like, oh, it's okay to, you know, like, you know, snap your fingers and make noise or, you know, rewind or something like that. But like if you hitting them with like, you know, like something like heavy or something where they really gotta like pay attention to like details, because a lot of times like I'll drop like realistic like stats and I'm rhyming stuff. You know, like, you know, when I'm dropping statistics in my poems, that's research stuff. Like, I'm not just saying stuff just to, you know, say it or based on, like, you know, what I think it might be. Like, no, these are real statistics. Like, listen.
You ain't rhyming just around. You telling them the truth.
Right.
Right.
You know, so, like, when, you know, when I start mentioning, like, you know, like, I got, like, one poem, like, where, you know, I said, like, there's 20 million Americans without any form of health care. You know, and I actually had to adjust that number, like, a couple of times when I was doing the poem based on how many people actually had health care. Because at one point it was double that. You know, so when I'm dropping statistics, like, yeah, it's serious.
Have you ever went blank in the middle of a poem?
Yeah, that's happened to every poet.
How do it feel?
To
you. I know how I feel, but how do it feel to you?
I mean, just feel like you gotta, like, you know, like regather yourself for a second.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times, like, you know, it'll come back. You know, otherwise, I mean, if it don't come back, then you just spit something else.
Most definitely. All right, I ask people this: if I said to you, you have 15 to 20 minutes to do a seminar on anything, what would you do a seminar on?
Oh boy, that's a good question. You know, if I'm doing a seminar, you know, now am I putting on this? Am I speaking? I'm the keynote speaker.
You're the keynote speaker.
Okay, so this got to be something that I actually know about. I'm not just putting it together for the sake of gathering
Most definitely.
people for the sake of knowledge. Like, if it's something that I actually have to speak on,
any subject, I don't care what it is.
Any subject. I mean, tech would be like too easy. I mean, I've got years in, you know, like doing IT. I mean, I could do it on that, but you know, if I'm having fun with it, it would be on, you know, like how to run a venue or a show. Mm-hmm. Like a poetry-based show, mm-hmm. as a performing poet. Okay.
Well, you got 15 minutes.
Oh.
We're gonna listen to you.
Okay, so okay, if you're interested in having, you know, like your own show, because I've been around for a very long time in poetry. I mean, a long time to me. I'm talking about 18 years I've been around poetry. You know, this year, 18 for me. If you're trying to start your own venue, there's a lot of things that, you know, need to be considered. And, you know, especially like if you're an artist too, because anything that is not your art, you know, or just not, you know, putting time directly into like your art, meaning like your penmanship and your, you know, your memorization and your practicing for performing, like it takes away. So, I mean, that's the first thing that you have to settle in your mind if you're an artist that's trying to like put on a show. It's like, okay, if I'm putting on this show, am I good with the amount of time away from my art that it takes to put energy into the show to make it successful. You know, and there's different levels to consider. It's like, okay, the first thing, you know, where are you going to have your show at? Okay, so if you're going to have a show, you have to decide, okay, what part of the city, you know, you want to have it in. You have to decide what type of venue, you know, you want to have. Because, I mean, there's different things to consider. I mean, if you have it in a, you know, a bar and grill versus a coffee shop versus, you know, like a standard, like, empty, like, event space, those are all different dynamics. Like, that's all going to affect how your event feels. And it's also going to dictate what challenges you have based on, you know, like the, you know, the dynamics of, you know, like where you decide to have your event at. So, you know, if you, and like I said, I've been to a lot of different events. So if you have your event at a coffee shop, the benefits to doing that is that, okay, if you're in a coffee shop, okay, you know, you're in a space that, you know, you won't have to really do a lot of setup because it's already set up. You know, there's gonna be seating there, there's gonna be tables there. Chances are, I mean, if it's a coffee shop, I mean, it's gonna be, you know, food and, you know, all that stuff that people can order. You know, if you want to go that route. Bad side of that is that you don't really get to dictate any of that stuff. That part of your show is out of your control. So as long as the venue is there and they open, you know, you can have your show there. You can't really control the food. You can't bring in outside food. You know, so that's something to consider. You know, yeah, that's one thing to think about. The second thing is like parking, and a lot of people are like, forget this. It's like you, like, please put your shows like where there's adequate parking, like easy to access. Because ain't nothing worse than trying to go to a show, you know, for the first time, and you get there and you're like, okay, well, I see the building right there, like where I'm supposed to park. Because in Atlanta, they will boot you, they will tow you. And believe me when I say, like, a lot of people, if they go to your show and they get booted, they might not come back.
This is true.
That's about what, 70, 75 bucks?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody ain't ready to take that L. So, you know, have a lot of parking, preferably like right outside your venue. You know, if you got a place with a parking lot, perfect. Next thing, okay, so you got your place, you got your parking. You gotta decide, okay, what kind of ambiance am I gonna have inside? You know, am I gonna set up lighting? You know, am I gonna have a DJ? You know, if you're the person that's coordinating the event, are you gonna DJ? You know, like, I mean, I DJ'd like my own event like for about 4 years, you know, before I got like somebody else to do it. You know, but everybody can't do that. But that's an expense that you have to consider. You know, maybe you can find a DJ for free. Probably not. You know, but that's something that's going to affect like your ambiance. Like open mics are different when there's no music, you know, at the beginning or in between posts or at the end. A venue in silence is completely different. Are you going to have a microphone? I know Milk's probably going to laugh at this one. Because, you know, how most poets be doing. You know, they'll get on stage, you know, after their name is called, walk up right behind the mic, grab the mic, and then be like, oh, I don't need this, y'all can hear me. No, we really can't. Depending on how big the venue is, like, a lot of people can't hear you outside like the first row, maybe first 2 rows. So, but, you know, you gotta decide, like, the place that I'm in is, do I want to have a mic? You know, because if you got, you know, mic, that includes a sound system. So you got to have mic and speakers. You know, how are you going to advertise? I mean, I remember before social media became big, you used to have to pound the pavement. You know, get some flyers printed out, and then you got to hit the streets. You know, going to like different, you know, venues or, you know, handing them out at work or whatever, you know, to get the word out about your show. Now, social media has made things a lot easier. You know, people can create events on Facebook and, you know, they can post their flyers on Twitter and Instagram. Meetup is a good that's a good thing to have. It's not free, but that's a good way to like build a following to get the word out about your show. I think the hardest thing about running a show, and this is probably going to be like the biggest thing, is consistency. Like every time that there is a new show, I mean, if you know a lot of people like in the arts community, your first 1 to 4 shows gonna be hot because people want to come out and support. You're like, hey, I got this new venue. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got this new show. We doing it every, like either every week, every other week, or monthly.
Every first Wednesday.
Right. You're doing it like ever so often. If it's a recurrent event, people will come out and support you like in bulk, like in mass for like the first like 1 to 4 shows. After that, kind of tapers off a little bit. That's when you have to like really like ask yourself like, okay, do I really like want to run this show? Because that first year is going to be a monster. Like, do not get to see you by your first 4 shows. Be like, dang, like I got all these people out here, man. It's easier than I thought. Wait till that 3rd or 4th show roll around. Because you're going to have some, if you got a recurring event, you're going to have some shows where you show up. Anybody that's partnering with you, they going to show up. You open the door, maybe 3 people show up. Maybe 5 people show up. Maybe 10 people show up. Maybe no people show up. Reflective Soul series, was like that. Like early on, like the first year. I mean, we're 5 years in now. I mean, we got like full shows now, but there was times where where I would go and we would set up like we were ready for a show. Everything was set up. We had a person taking money like up at the front. We got the the mic out and everything. Like we ready to go. And a handful of people show up. We had a couple shows where nobody showed up. We went there. We sat for about by we I mean the people who putting the show together. We showed up. We opened the doors. We had to everything was ready to go. Nobody showed up. We had during that first year we had a number of shows like that. But we kept sticking through it. And I think it's mainly because I had been around poetry so long that I knew that it was going to be like that. I knew we were going to have to build our following. So I said, okay, well, as long as we stay consistent and we say, okay, while we're advertising, on this day at this time, there's a poetry show here, and we keep, getting the word out, people are going to show up. But you got to be consistent. Like, you can't be ready to hang it up the first time. Like, you have like a couple shows where, it's like the head count is fewer than 5 people. Like that's the biggest thing. Like, be where you say you're going to be. Like, if you say your event is, every month on, like, I don't know, first Friday. Every month on the first Friday, that's where you at. That's where you advertising for. Try and like, bring new people in. Ask your friends to like, share your flyers. I mean, but you gotta be where you say you're gonna be if you starting the show. So after that, 3rd or 4th show, when that crowd like starts to taper off a little bit, especially like if you're in a place where it's not already in an established poetry venue, meaning like there's never been like any poetry there before, because there's spots like that in Atlanta where it's like, okay, if you start a show there, people know about it because there's been other poetry shows there. So places like Urban Ryan, Cass Cafe, like people know about those. So if you start a show there, little easier. You start from a place that nobody's ever had like a poetry event before. A little more difficult. Definitely more difficult. So that's the best advice that I could give for running a show. And anytime you're having a show, always look at it from like a critical perspective of how can I add on to the show? How can I make this different somehow than like every other show out there? Like what it is about like my show that makes people say like, okay, when you go here, it feels like this. You get this, but you can't get that anywhere else. So, I mean, all that like ties together, you know. And as a performing artist, always try to make sure that you still stay like an artist. You know, if that's what you want to do. Try not to fall too far into event curator mode that you fall out of being an artist. You know, like try and like balance it. Like get some help if you if you can. You know, and as always, it always helps when you pay people. So, everybody that does anything like for our show, everybody gets paid. A lot of times like that's out of my pocket. Like we don't break even on that door; it's coming out of the pocket. But that's how serious I am about this poetry. Like I don't care if I have to go to work and work these hours to fund like poetry. Like I just feel like a certain way about poetry where like I don't mind.
Speaking of that, break down what does poetry mean to you?
Poetry means a lot of different things to me. From a writing perspective, it's a good way to get your thoughts like out of your head, like and get them like organized.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times like the way my mind works, like it's quick. Like I'll think about something, and then like I'll think about like all the angles of that, and then I'll move on to something else. And I'll think about that, and I'll move on to something. Like if I write it down, it's kind of like these are like these are like milestones, like for like my thought process.
What's that one?
So for me, like poetry written is organization of my thoughts and my perspectives and my truths. Performing is a chance to share those truths and just to see how it resonates like with not only other poets but other people that just happen to appreciate the art form.
What's something I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
Something that you didn't ask me
that you want to talk about.
That I do want to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me something. Like I mean, it's so many topics. like that's so wide open.
Most definitely.
I mean, we haven't really talked about like how often we have like the Reflective Soul series show.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, as of right now, like where it currently stands, we're at a venue called the Red Door in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Reflective Soul series is every month on the first Wednesday. Doors open at 7:30 p.m. We run the show from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Sometimes a little bit later than that, but the parking is free and the food is included in the door price, and that's something that's like unique to our show. We've also got like nice lighting and nice ambiance, and our crowd. We just happen to attract like a very like receptive crowd, so it's not like anybody has to like really be nervous. Like it's good for people that are it's their first time performing, all the way up to people that have been performing for like years. Mm-hmm. And it's a good way to get exposure to new artists that maybe haven't been featured before. Like we've done that a lot. Where we put people on where they've come to our show, they perform their open mic, and we're like, let's put them on.
Most definitely.
And we've done that a lot, and we've seen a lot of people just take off like after that. And a lot of growth. After that, they're like, yeah, performed this one time, now they everywhere.
What's give me your, because you brought up artists that I've never heard of, like the dude Future and the young lady.
Like Natural?
Yeah, Natural. Who's your top 5 poets?
Oh, boy. I hate giving, like...
It's okay.
Because to me, it's like...
All right, well, let me say it a different way. What's your top 5 features you see? How about that? Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, I still answer like the first question.
Okay.
Because everybody's top 5 is like different. It's just a matter of like perspective. And I always find something of worth of any performer that has like the nerve to get on stage and like share their truth, like honestly. I mean, I've seen some people that like call themselves poets and get on stage and they be bullying, they be playing around. And when I say playing around, they're not coming from an honest place, you know, like, and by honest I mean like, you know, something that's like sincere, like to them and like their story or their perspective. You know, like don't get on stage just for the sake of being on stage. Like bring your truth or bring your perspective. So now that I've prefaced that, top five poets to me in no particular order. I already mentioned Future. Future to me is one of like the dopest like poets like I've ever heard. Like it's something that has like, you know, like a sense of like timelessness to it. You know, no matter when I listen to it, I can. It's like I always. It's like I go back to like the year that I first got the CD, and I'm like, man, this is fire right here. So I like the diversity and the fire of Future. I like Infrared. Like I've got Infrared's his first album. By the way, Infrared, if you're watching this, waiting on that sequel. Where that second album. Infrared, just because he's so unique, and I can kind of, it's like I can kind of see like myself and like kind of like the way like he delivers like his poetry. You know, and I can also like kind of see like my character in him, because I mean he was awkward too at one point. You know, like if you ask him, he'll tell you. But his poetry, it's almost like when I see him perform, it's almost like he's himself, but he morphs into like almost like this being that is like pure poetry. You know. Like you'll just see him like, you know, like when he rolls his eyes, like I said, like and he delivers lines, like you could tell like he's all the way in, like he feels like what he's saying, like it's like that's his truth for real.
Most definitely, sweating like profusely.
Right, like, yeah, he got the towel and everything. Like I mean, yo, he kicks off his shoes. He just be wearing socks when he feet like them red socks. He kills me with that. But he's all the way into like the poetry. You know what I'm saying? Like when he's performing, like. Yeah, he's pure poet in that sense. Let me see who else.
Hold on, before you go into number 3, break down the That's why I go ahead.
Oh man, what you got?
Break down the Future dude, because I never heard him. So I mean, like when you say his stuff is timeless, what is it about? Is the word combination he used? What is it that make what he do timeless?
Well, I mean, it's a combination of things. I mean, it's not only just like his style of writing, but like the topics that he says, and I also like how he does this on his albums. He has like interview sessions, like where, you know, like people are like, you know, interviewing him like briefly, like it's, you know, like an intermission or something there, and like he'll mention like how people like are responding to like what he said, you know, or, you know, like how he'll write, you know, something about, you know, like, you know, maybe like abortion or something about like you know, like domestic violence or something like that, and like how people come like and they say like, you know, like how that either like changes their perspective or how like that poem like saved their life or something like that. I mean, that's heavy stuff.
Most definitely.
You know, so I mean, when you say stuff in your poems and it resonates to like that degree where people are like, man, like this poem, the stuff that you said saved my life.
Yeah, that's another level.
I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had stuff resonate, but nobody's come to me and said like, you know, a poem was like saved their life. You know, so yeah, Future, yeah, he's that dude.
All right, well, who's your 3, 4, and 5?
I gotta give props to Black Ice, Philadelphia. First time I ever heard this cat. Yo, Deaf Poetry, season 1. I think he was like maybe like the third or like fourth person, you know, to come on, you know, like most definitely from Philadelphia, you know, Black Ice. You know, he came out and the passion with like what he spoke and like the realness of it. I mean, obviously he's like an MC too, which I found out like later on, but like it was like the potency and like the emotion that like went into like what he was saying, and kind of like how he loves like black people. He wants to talk about like, you know, like not only like the plight of black people, but like how we can like over. It's kind of like he's giving like a news reel, like speech, and a lot of like what I do, like the socio-political stuff. I mean, a lot of that came from like Black Ice's like influence. Like I had a chance to meet him outside of like Tommy Bottom's play, the educated gangster. That was my first. Like I never actually like met the guy in person. But I just happened to like meet him in the hallways, and I got a chance to like rap with him like real quick. Cool dude. Yeah. I hope he's still out there like writing and performing. I haven't seen him like since then, but yeah, Black Ice. I mean, I got a CD too. It's nice.
Most definitely. Yeah. 4.
Man, it's funny. Like I never like really think about like who. Yeah.
See, and that's the thing that I want us to start doing. We got to start thinking about who is our top. Everybody got a top. Hip hop got a top. R&B have a top. Who is our top? See, me, when I go by tops, I go by if I see a feature. Then I can say, oh yeah, he can, he or she can body a feature. That's how I do it. It seems like you going off albums.
Well, I mean, part of it's not all albums. Cause I didn't get Black Ice's album until like after I want to make sure I'm clear on that. I'm not saying that the people you name don't body features. I want to make sure I'm clear on that because you gotta be clear because people twist it up. Yeah, that's true. So I mean, I think anybody that I mentioned body a feature.
Most definitely. And I seen Red feature.
What, Infrared?
Yeah, I seen.
Oh yeah.
So who's 4 and 5?
4 and 5. Oh man. I mean, as of right now, I gotta put the homie Milk in there.
No, they don't put me. They gonna feel like you put me.
No. Real talk though, and and I think I'm the right person to say this because I was the one that picked you for your first feature.
Most definitely.
So that meant that I had to have seen you perform first before I was like, he gonna body this.
Most definitely.
So I mean, maybe nobody else that you interview can be like, yeah, like Milk in my top 5 because it'll sound like bias, but like I can say that because I remember like back then, like that was some years back. I remember like watching you, when you came to Reflect the Soul and like you performed. I was like, he killed that, and you came back again, killed that, came back again, killed that. I was like, that's our dude. Matter of fact, we gonna open the calendar year with him.
Most definitely.
So. And it's not just because of, like the shock value or anything like that. Because, of course it's like shock value. But that you can always see, like, the passion of somebody that's, like, performing, just by, like, staring at, like, like, watch their eyes. Watch their eyes, like, when they perform. Like, that'll tell you, like, how into it they are. Like, some people can, like, their poetry is still dope. But you can tell, like, some of it, like, they don't have, like, the same kind of, like...
Intensity?
Not necessarily intensity, but... And I don't want to say that they, anybody else, like, don't, like, love, like, they art or anything like that. But, like,
Killer
there's something
instinct.
special that
Killer
I can
instinct.
see. Yeah. Yeah, you can see, like, a certain killer instinct, like, in certain people where you'd be like, this person, not only is their writing good and their delivery is good, but they really got a heart for this kind of stuff. Like, they really, like, love poetry. And that's the kind of people I really, like seeing on stage, people that love poetry. Not people that just dope at writing and performing, people that love this.
I love this shit.
Right. I could tell.
I love this shit. All right, let's go past me. Who's 5?
Who's 5? Oh man. I don't know. Is it corny like to put myself in there?
Hell no.
I'm a poet too. It's like like there's always, see for me, like anytime I'm ranking poetry, it's always by writing style, variety, intensity, love, delivery, and like how much it resonates and who resonates more with me than me.
Most definitely.
It's like every day that I wake up and I'm like, yeah, like I'm still in love with this poetry stuff. Every time I write something, that's something that's like personal to me. That's why I write a lot of stuff. And you notice I don't share everything that I write. I got a whole lot of stuff that that I've just never performed. But I write sometimes because it's like sometimes it's therapeutic for me, sometimes it's personal to me. So yeah, Yeah, I mean, if I can put myself on the list, I'll put myself on the list. But if I gotta have like another poet in there,
all right, do this then. Take me and you off, and give me 2 more.
Oh dang! Now we got a top 7. Like
No. I just wanted to. I should have prefaced it by saying, "Nah, don't name me or you. Just give me 5."
Oh man, I've seen so many poets. I mean, you talking to somebody that's been around poetry for like almost like 20 years. It's hard to be like which 5 people,
right?
You know, because I've been such a big supporter of like poetry too. Like I got more books and CDs and like I care to count. Like I almost can't keep up with all of it. Yeah, let me put Abyss in that list too.
Abyss, yeah, he official.
Yeah,
Official.
Abyss is that guy. The reason why I like Abyss is because Abyss is one of those artists that not only is he big on like growth as an artist. Because the first time I saw him was like on Def Poetry purely as a poet. You know, later on, like, you know, I see this cat, you know, like doing songs, he's playing the guitar and everything. I'm like, huh. I'm not sure if he was playing the guitar back then, but I was like, this is growth.
Right.
You know, but also because he's got a good business mind for being a full-time artist. You know, there's a whole lot of people that, you know, be like, yeah, like, you know, full-time artist, quit my job and all that, and broke in the mug. You thought it was gonna be a lot easier, didn't you? You know, but Abyss, he's that good balance between, you know, artist, passion, delivery, variety, growth, you know, and you know the business acumen. You know, like Abyss is official.
All right, give me one more.
Let's see, one more poet. Man, I'm trying to think out of everybody that I've either heard, you know, or you know, TV or open mic, CDs that I've got. Let's see, there's got to be a poet. Oh boy, there's so many people.
I know it's a lot.
And I know that like anybody that's watching this is probably gonna be like, name me, pick me. But there's so many people that are like, don't.
That's why I want to make sure we take me off because I know I'm people.
Good. I mean, you know, it's like because I've seen like so many people like.
I know. Think of a. Did you say any women yet?
I have not, but
think of a woman. How about that as an honorable? Because we want women that we being chauvinistic.
I mean, I was trying to. You know, it's funny because when you mentioned that, I was actually trying to think. It was like 3 like women that I was like thinking about. You know, that are like really dope. And I'm not even sure if like she even like still performs, you know, but she didn't realize like how dope she is. But like Black Karma is dope.
Black Karma?
Black Karma.
I need to see her.
Black Karma though, she used to host it Urban Grind like years back. Black Karma is dope to me. You know, of course, like, you know, Georgia Me is dope. You know, she, you know, Deaf Poet all over the place. You know, Tony Award, Emmy Award, you know, all that good stuff. You know, she got Tamika Fest. You know, she's dope. I think, and this is probably gonna be like an outside of the box thing, you know, because I don't really see her like out like as much, like, you know, like doing like features. But Alex Andrea is dope to me. Alex Andrea is dope, and so is Abstract CIM.
Yeah,
like Abstract.
No, both of them they dope.
Yeah, it's like there's so many like dope artists.
I know.
And you know, like I never really think about poetry on like a scale of 10 or 30. Shout out to slam poets.
Right.
You know, I just go by, you know, are people when they're on stage, are they speaking and delivering like from their truth? And to me, like every artist that I've mentioned does that. You know, and all of that, like even if it's a topic that has, you know, zero, you know, like correlation to like me personally, the emotion that you can feel like behind it. Like everybody can relate to emotions because everybody's felt a lot of the same emotions. Everybody's felt anger, everybody's felt pain, everybody's been happy, everybody's, you know, like, you know, everybody's laughed before. It's like everybody's been in all those emotions, so you can feel like like where that person's come from, even if you can't like relate personally. So yeah, I mean, I could be here like naming poets like all day. I mean, Sincere is dope. I mean, Fitzgerald. I mean, TJ Nicole is dope.
TJ shit killer. The last when we was at your 5-year anniversary, I was telling her she needed to be out here more because she's a killer.
Yeah, but you know how the new baby do.
I know.
Yeah, you know how when you're a brand new parent,
I know.
Maybe you a little bit more relaxed like for your second child, but for that first one, you like, okay, I gotta make sure nothing happens.
Most definitely.
Everybody paranoid on their first child, so I get it. She'll be back.
Give us your social media information before we get out of here.
Social media, okay.